This UCSD TV program is presented by University of California Television. Like what you learn? Visit our website or follow us on Facebook and Twitter to keep up with the latest programs.
Visit ecological reserves providing science access to two very different California landscapes. Explore the Mediterranean climate ecosystem and what makes it so special. But first, a visit with renowned biologist Bill McGinnis and his vision of an exciting new era in biology. In 1983, Bill McGinnis helped shape our fundamental understanding of biology with the discovery that genes which regulate embryonic development are identical in different animals, from worms to flies to mice and humans. Today, he is Dean of Biological Sciences at UC San Diego, with a vision to lead the way into an era of exciting new developments in biology.
One of the new and exciting things that's happened at UC San Diego is this brain activity mapping project, which was announced by the President of the United States, which is going to revolutionize our understanding of the human brain. People are starting to develop new ways to sense brain activity in living brains. By mapping those activity patterns, we can learn more about memory and learn more about the tragic situations when memory starts to fade, so neurodegenerative diseases. And the more we learn about this in this new brain activity mapping project, the better we'll be able to understand and cure those diseases. And this brain activity mapping project was actually led by some UC San Diego scientists. In part because of this, there's going to be a new building on the UCSD campus, and part of that building is going to be devoted to this brain activity mapping project. There's also a new initiative called the Quantitative Biology Initiative that's mathematical modeling of biological systems. UCSD researchers in the area of quantitative biology are some of the best in the world, and we're recruiting new faculty all the time. So one of the things that we're doing at UC San Diego to try to improve our educational experience for undergraduates and to achieve some of the goals that I was talking about is to build some new laboratories which will allow practical hands-on learning for our undergraduates. And this isn't going to be dissecting frogs, this is going to be learning the new and exciting techniques of genomics and proteomics and transcriptomics and applying those to practical real-world problems so that our undergraduates, when they first come in, understand the reasons why to study biology. So we're going to have more mathematical training for biologists because we have to teach our students the language of biology, but more and more of that language is going to be written in mathematical terms. And so we have to teach our undergraduates how mathematical models are going to help us interpret biological systems, which is going to be a big wave in the future. Another thing which is not a big wave in the future, but which I really want to emphasize as a personal passion for me, is more information about evolution for all undergraduates, not just biology undergraduates. And this has to be coupled with examples. We don't want people to just learn that Charles Darwin wrote a book in 1859. That's not helpful. Some of the things that I want to change at UCSD come from my lifetime experiences. So I grew up in a small, fairly rural town in Missouri called Warrensburg, Missouri. And I was very lucky because in Warrensburg there was a very good library, and my mom used to take me to the library every week. And even though it was a fairly isolated place, I could experience the larger world. I read history, science fiction, mysteries, any book I could get my hands on. And I was going to be drafted into the Army during the last few years of the Vietnam War. Instead, I decided to enlist in the Navy, and a few months later, I was on an aircraft carrier called the USS Enterprise off the coast of Vietnam. which was a pretty big cultural shift for me, going straight from Missouri to the USS Enterprise. But it gave me the opportunity to see how enormously qualified and intelligent some of those guys were, but they just didn't have the opportunities that came to me then and later. Some of those opportunities were having great teachers. So I'm passionate about education because I think teachers change our lives, change our students' lives. We have to teach them not only biological facts and biological language, but the real-world skills like learning how to learn, like learning how to work as a team, and learning how to communicate clearly, lead other people. Those kind of skills that are just as important. It's one of the great things about America, and that's one of the things that's created the great society that we have. We don't send our kids to madrasas and memorize religious texts. We introduce them to the wider world. This is one of the things that is so great about UC San Diego and other institutions of higher learning, is by transmitting information, the truth, and the newly discovered truths that we find out through research, we do change the world slowly from generation to generation and improve it. But it does take 10, 20, 30 years for those payoffs to come. Basic science is something that's absolutely essential to do. You have to understand how the brain works in order to try to solve Alzheimer's. You have to understand how cells divide and replicate and make more cells so that you can understand how to cure cancer. And you have to do this basic research so that you can have these eventual practical benefits that translate to discoveries that help human health. So there's one discovery that was made at UC San Diego about 30 years ago, and it was made by a fellow named Gordon Sato, who was a professor here. They were trying to figure out how they could grow human cells in a culture dish. But in order to do this, you have to have something that was, at the time, was called growth factors. Gordon and his colleagues helped to define some of the specific proteins that were growth factors and the proteins that they interacted with, that they touched and caused cells to grow. And in that process, they were able to develop a specific chemical that would neutralize, that would stop cancerous cells from growing, and specifically. So at the time Gordon was doing this, it was basic research. We didn't know how it was going to pay off in anti-cancer drugs. He didn't know either. But it has paid off. One way it's paid off is about $60 million that has gone to the University of California, which has helped support students. But that's one of the reasons we're starting some of these new research initiatives like quantitative biology. Our belief is that quantitative biology, by making these mathematical models of biological systems, which are going to get increasingly better and better, is going to help accelerate this path from basic science to payoffs in better drugs, better treatments for disease. One of the reasons why I think it's exciting for students to come to UC San Diego is because we're doing incredible research in a variety, basic research in a variety of areas, brain mapping, quantitative biology, the discovery of new biofuels, and we have a great tradition of undergraduates working in those basic science research labs that allows them to experience the most up-to-date research and make those discoveries that will transform not only their lives because of the excitement it brings, but also help to change society for the better, either by changing human health or by changing the environment. We're not a smug, self-satisfied place, a place that was founded a university was founded 200 or 300 years ago, and we look back on our great past and think how super we are. UC San Diego was only founded about 50 years ago. We're always looking toward the future. UC San Diego is a collaborative place where people work together. That's why we're bringing some of the most exciting new biologists to UC San Diego, because they know that's the spirit of the place.
The Mediterranean Basin is a storied region, home to miles of sun-warmed beaches, fabulous wines, and bustling cities. It's been a cultural crossroads since the dawn of civilization. What first attracted people to the basin, then convinced them to stay, was surely the mild weather. Here, the 4 seasons are compressed into 2. Hot summers bring clear, dry skies. Cool, but not frigid winters deliver life-giving rain. This Mediterranean climate offers a long growing season and comfortable living temperatures. The results? Rich crop harvests and tremendous natural bounty. The temperate conditions of the Mediterranean can also be found in a handful of other places. Much of California and northern Baja California. The central coast of Chile, southwest and parts of South Australia, and the Cape region of South Africa. Thanks to their similar climates, these regions have much in common. Understanding what features they share, what problems they face, and what is unique about each is helping people preserve these landscapes for the future. All 5 of the Mediterranean climate regions experience relatively even temperatures throughout the year and receive the majority of their precipitation as rainfall over just a few months. These warm, mostly frost-free regions are powerhouse producers of lemons, strawberries, avocados, tomatoes, and other high-value crops. Some, such as olives, originate from Mediterranean climes. Others, such as citrus and almonds, flourish in the relative warmth and seasonal rain. Wine grapes, too, love hot, arid summers and snow-free winters. It's no wonder that all 5 Mediterranean climate regions have major wine industries. All of these lands are on the western coasts of continents and adjacent to large bodies of water. The oceans and seas help to moderate land temperatures. Less obvious are the atmospheric forces that divide the Mediterranean calendar into wet and dry seasons. Each of the 5 regions is located near a high-pressure cell that hovers over an ocean. These cells move toward the poles in summer, pushing storms away from land. Jet streams shift the cells back towards the equator in winter, bringing storms near land again. Mediterranean climate regions are also hothouses of biological diversity. Though these areas cover only 2.2% of Earth's dry land, they harbor 16% of all known plant species. Only tropical rainforests rival their diversity. The Mediterranean climate can be stressful. For plants, a lack of water or cool temperatures limit growth for much of the year. Because Mediterranean region organisms face similar conditions, many have evolved similar characteristics. Shrubby, evergreen plants are widespread in all 5 areas. Their small, leathery leaves keep water loss to a minimum, helping plants survive long summers without rain. In the Mediterranean, maquis flora includes cork oaks, olive trees, and heath. The matorral of Chile is home to wine palms. Also found here is quillay, the soapbark tree. The chaparral of California includes live oaks, manzanitas, and chamis. The fynbos of South Africa features proteas, pelargonium, the plants we know as garden geraniums, and ericas. Australian quangon includes many types of banksias, sundews, and hakias. Most Mediterranean ecosystems have also evolved with periodic fires. Many plants in these systems have traits that are advantageous in fire-prone environments, including root crowns that resprout after a blaze, shedding seeds after a fire, and germination stimulated by smoke or ash. The 5 Mediterranean climate regions also face a similar suite of problems. Invasive species may pose the greatest threat. Exotic plants can turn into landscape-devouring weeds when transplanted into new ecosystems. The fast-growing Monterey pine, imported to Chile as a source of lumber, has become the dominant forest tree in coastal areas. The golden wattle, Australia's national tree, is marching its way across South African fynbos that has been prevented from burning. And black mustard, native to the Mediterranean basin, is engulfing entire hillsides throughout California. People have had an even greater impact on Mediterranean landscapes by flocking there to live. The qualities that made the Mediterranean basin so alluring to early people have swelled human populations in all 5 Mediterranean climate regions. The migrants have built some of the world's most cosmopolitan cities: Cape Town, South Africa; Santiago, Chile; San Francisco, California; Rome, Italy; and Perth, Australia. But those cities have come at a heavy price for the environment. Today, more than 40% of the world's Mediterranean-type ecosystems have been devoured by cities or converted to farmland. Little of the remaining valuable open space has been protected. To put this in perspective, of all endangered tropical rainforest, half has been preserved from development. In Mediterranean areas, it is much worse. Of all the original Mediterranean ecosystem habitat, only 1/8 of that habitat has been preserved from development. Populations in Mediterranean climate areas skyrocket further during vacation season. Their balmy weather draws tourists like a magnet. While there are roughly 300 million permanent residents of the Mediterranean basin, an estimated 220 million tourists also visit each year. Amenities for vacationers, such as resorts and golf courses, consume even more local land and resources. But perhaps the most precious resource in Mediterranean climate areas is fresh water. Many of these regions already struggle to make water supplies stretch through months of summer drought. To make matters worse, global warming is expected to make Mediterranean ecosystems hotter and drier in the future. That means drought, heat waves, and their associated threat, wildfire, are expected to become more extreme from here on out. 4,000 years ago, the combination of climate change and intensive farming transformed the Fertile Crescent, cradle of civilization, into a parched desert. Given climate change forecasts and current agricultural practices, today's Mediterranean climate lands could face a similar fate. Understanding how these areas are vulnerable is a first step towards preventing that scenario. People are protecting wildlands by setting aside parks and reserves, battling invasive species, conserving urban water use, and controlling erosion. Together, these and other efforts might be enough to maintain the health of Earth's treasured Mediterranean climate landscapes.
Welcome to Inside Science TV.
Saved.
End program. The holodeck seen here in the hit TV show Star Trek allows crew members to enter and explore virtual worlds. Now, Jürgen Schultz, an expert in science visualizations, along with his colleagues, has created a new, totally immersive 3D virtual reality room called the Star Cave.
The Star Cave is a virtual reality system which consists of 15 screens all around the user. It's completely 360-degree immersive, and it can generate 3D images anywhere in the space that the user looks at. The user wears 3D glasses and a tracking system so that the computer knows where the user is, and you're using a 3D input device to control the environment.
The Star Cave creates environments scientists once could only imagine. Users can walk around virtual buildings to improve their design or explore molecules to unlock their secrets. The room displays 68 million pixels, and while your video game system is just one graphics processor, Star Cave uses 34, making it over 30 times more powerful than the PlayStation 3 or the Xbox 360.
We're currently working on making the technology of the Star Cave more available to a larger market. And one way to do this is to utilize 3D television screens to offer systems that allow people at home to do virtual reality in their living room.
Turning science fiction into science fact. I'm Josh Lebowitz reporting.
Inside Science TV. If you enjoyed this edition, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. 2 new science stories every week. Powered by the American Institute of Physics.
The University of California Natural Reserve System is a network of protected wildlands across California. The system provides places to educate students and the public about the natural world and for scientists to conduct research in wild landscapes. Each reserve offers access to a unique environment. 2 of the reserves administered by UC Riverside, the James San Jacinto Mountains Reserve and the Sweeney Granite Mountains Desert Research Center, demonstrate just how different these sites can be. The James San Jacinto Mountains Reserve is located about a mile high just west of Palm Springs. The area hosts plants characteristic of several regions, including the Sierra Nevada, the coast, and the desert. It is embedded within much larger natural and scenic areas administered by the U.S. Forest Service. The James Reserve staff also manages the Oasis de los Osos. Located in a desert pass between Riverside and the Coachella Valley, this 160-acre reserve is fed by a perennial stream. Though the James Reserve is relatively small at 29 acres, it hosts an impressive variety of plants and animals. These include 18 species of reptiles, such as this western rattlesnake, mammals such as deer and mountain lions, and 125 species of birds. The principal facility at the James is the Trailfinder Lodge, which has classrooms and visitor accommodations. The James Reserve was crucial in pioneering the use of remote sensing technology for environmental research and teaching. Its wireless network covers the whole property. Local habitat conditions are tracked via microweather stations and webcams. This camera, for example, is stationed over a manzanita bush. It automatically records any pollinators that visit the heart-shaped flowers. The entire reserve is off the grid. All of the electricity needed to run the sensors, lights, computers, and other electronics comes from solar panels. The network allows anyone with internet service to eavesdrop on reserve wildlife. Nest box cameras, for example, offer views of hungry chicks begging for food inside the nest. There's even a microphone set up to listen to the forest around the clock. The proximity of the James Reserve to the UC Riverside campus, its comfortable housing, and its habitat diversity make it an excellent site for introducing students to the natural world. Sweeney Granite Mountains Desert Research Center is located within the 5 million acres of the Mojave Desert. The region is still undeveloped and wild compared to most other parts of Southern California. The reserve is roughly 14 square miles in size, making it the second largest in the Natural Reserve System. About 10% is owned by the university. The remainder is operated under an agreement with the National Park Service as part of the 1.5 million acre Mojave National Preserve. The staff also administer a satellite reserve in the Sacramento Mountains. This area is known for its dense stands of teddy bear cholla. The Granite Mountains were once part of an ancient chain of volcanoes. Weathering along the rock joints and fractures has produced white pinnacles, precariously balanced boulders, and maze-like corridors. Rugged upland canyons support water-loving cottonwoods and willows, but also dry-adapted live oaks, yuccas, and cacti. Its steep inclines evolve into broad bajadas, or sloping sediment aprons. These are dominated by creosote and burrow bush. The Granite Mountains are situated at the juncture of 3 deserts: the Mojave, the Sonoran, and the Great Basin. As a result, the reserve is home to an unusually diverse mixture of plants and animals. Reptiles at the reserve include the threatened desert tortoise, the coach-whip snake, and the long-nosed leopard lizard. Resident mammals include ring-tailed cats, which prowl rocky areas at dawn and dusk, and desert bighorn sheep. In previous centuries, water concentrated around the base of the mountain range attracted a large population of Native Americans. The mountains are dotted with ancient habitation sites and rock art. Most reserve facilities are nestled into the broad wash known as Granite Cove. The Allenson Center and Library is the reserve's central hub. Built in 1992, it was constructed largely by volunteers using donated and recycled materials. The center includes a laboratory, specimen collections, and visitor accommodations. Researchers who use the reserve range from biologists to earth scientists to artists. Many work on the reserve itself, while others use it as a base while commuting to sand dunes, lava flows, and other features in the surrounding desert. The nearest town is located about 2 hours away. This makes reserve housing, telecommunications, and other amenities critical for scientists working in this vast and wild region. As with all of the sites in the Natural Reserve System, the Sweeney Granite Mountains Reserve is protected for the long term. This policy attracts scientists who know that their research plots and equipment won't be disturbed. For teachers, the Granite Mountains Reserve is a wonderful place to bring students. It regularly hosts both high school and college classes from around the world. Over 30,000 students have visited the reserve's Kenneth S. Norris Camp facility alone. A few UC classes have been coming to the reserve for decades. For students, the chance to leave the city and explore the wilderness can be a transforming experience. Holding a live snake for the very first time, or seeing a wild kangaroo rat close up, helps them appreciate the wonders of the natural world. That's the story of 2 very different reserves. One nestled beneath the shade of mountain forests, the other a remote outpost amid a parched desert. Despite their many differences, they share one important factor. Both are united by the mission of the Natural Reserve System: to contribute to the understanding and wise stewardship of the Earth.